Post is going forward and calling this a suspension for Kayla Lemieux, put on paid leave on Tuesday. And that was after Ontario's Education Minister, 3 MPPs, including Halton Region Stephen Crawford, Natalie Pierre, Effie Triantafilopoulos, who's been on our show before, rebuked the school board. Their quote, "They have abdicated its responsibility by failing to put the interests and safety of students first." And it didn't get too contentious last night, but obviously, we're 7 months in. This has descended into something that could have been easily, for lack of a better term, snuffed out in September. I think that's consciously on the minds of many, many people who've lived through this particular controversy. Lynn Petroskovich is a parent who spoke at last night's meeting. She's got 2 kids in the Halton District Board who have recently graduated, and she's kind enough to join us now. She spoke last night at the meeting, as I said. Lynn, it's great to have you on Toronto today. Thanks for this.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Happy to be here.
Were you satisfied? Were you disappointed by, I guess, the outcome and the tone of the meeting? I know it was lengthy. How did you feel when you left?
Yeah, I think it was a good meeting in the sense that it was democratic and productive. The parents seemed to be greeted with a little bit more joy and excitement that we were there to participate, and a welcoming environment for us. And I think in the end, there were some good delegations, so there was some good democracy happening, and that's what we want in this. We want to have open dialogue, we want to have open inquiry, and really flesh this out. Very insightful and revealing, and I have to honestly commend the trustees. They spoke up, they asked some questions, and I think that's been some of the frustration with the parents in the past, is that a lot of this stuff was kind of going on in these meetings, and they would just sit silently by, and that is what I think caused some of the outbursts in previous meetings. Is if no one's asking, if your elected trustee is not asking the questions that you want asked, then parents get frustrated, and eventually that spills over and they're yelling from the gallery. So I think when the trustees do their role of representing the parents, then it actually frees the parents to sit back and follow the procedures that are well established in these meetings, and let really democracy unfold. So I think it was great in that regard, and very insightful, revealing, a lot of key learnings from it, that's for sure.
Now, yesterday was March 1st, so we took some time getting here. How frustrating was the fall in that it was patently obvious that parents, students, maybe even the rights of the teacher were just being ignored. This just felt like it was walked around, swept under the carpet, and not dealt with for a half year.
Absolutely. So I have a lot of friends who have children at that school, so I've been kind of able to observe the roller coaster ride of emotion that they've all been on, and it's been really challenging to see that, and obviously the impact on their kids. It's been very difficult for them, for sure. And absolutely, this is an HR issue, and there are plenty of policies in place that this could have been dealt with from day one. This is something, if anyone, has experience with management, you pull an employee aside and you have a sidebar conversation about something when it's relating to appropriateness, and it could all have been resolved. But unfortunately, that's not what happened, because the board, for whatever reason, and this is still to be understood completely, has decided that this situation was to be held up and celebrated as some type of human rights victory, in that we were going to accept this new form of professionalism based on that person's chosen attire and presentation in the workplace as a victory for human rights and gender identity and expression. And so it put everyone kind of on the offense, or the defense rather, because people weren't sure what that meant, because this is new territory for everyone. So I think it was just a very unfortunate situation, and really my heart does go out to this teacher, because they've been, I think, exploited by the board in some ways for a particular vision of a social justice initiative or rebranding that perhaps they are not wanting to be part of as well, dragged through the media and so forth. And so I think we need to see compassion on all sides for sure.
Lynn Petroskovich, our guest on Toronto Today, she spoke at last night's Halton District School Board meeting. That's where I was in the fall. I saw this as a protocol issue, a professionalism issue, a dress code issue, and I didn't see it as a massive benchmark moment for LGBTQ rights. I didn't. I wanted the board to protect. I was aghast when you're starting to realize, well, this teacher's being videotaped by students because the students have been, yelling fire, saying, I can't learn anything in this class. It's utterly distracting. It's become a circus, and I'm here for my education. That relieves me that students felt that way. But the teachers' rights, privacy rights, were certainly violated the longer this went on by the board not doing anything.
Absolutely. And, what it is when it really comes down to it, there's been a lot of dialogue about, statutory freezes and do we have policies or not. And I think the point of my delegation, which I would encourage people to watch, it's at timestamp 2:30 in the board meeting, which is all available online. Essentially, the statutory freeze is irrelevant and unwarranted because it's well documented, and other lawyers have weighed in on this, that they can and have the right to enforce management practices that have been in existence for decades. I mean, it's not new to enforce professional standards in the workplace as an employer. You can do that. So the only reason that keeps coming up is because there's a claim that if we put something new in place, it won't be able to be enforced. But there is nothing new, and that's what we saw in the meeting last night. It was like a incoherence of circular reasoning. We need a new policy, but we all have old policies. But there's a litany of professionalism and conduct policies, but they're old, but they're new. We need new procedures. Oh wait, we don't. It was watching a incoherence of word salads, where it doesn't seem like there's any logic following. And I think that creates the frustration for people because you're not getting anywhere. And then after we get to a certain point of establishing if it's all old legislation, then we're back to statutory freeze again. And so it's like we just keep going around and around in circles. And if you felt dizzy watching that meeting, that would explain why.
Well, hopefully you gained your balance before walking out. Thanks for getting up early and coming on our show, and just thanks for being active as a parent. We need more people to do it.
Want to support them. Yeah, I really want to support them. And honestly, this parent group with Students First Ontario has been amazing. Julia DeWinter has a new fundraiser on GoFundMe, so I'd encourage parents who want to support these parents who have kids at OT to keep pushing this. They want to take it all the way legally if it's required to do that, and I think that would be a good opportunity.
I got you, Lynn. Thanks so much for the time this morning.
All right, take care.
Okay, that's Lynn Petroskovich joining us on Toronto Today. We'll talk more about this in the 8 o'clock hour. Coming up next, we'll let Ed Keenan, Toronto Star City columnist, react to the breaking news this morning.